Welcome everyone to our today's event, Keeping an Eye on the Transition. Are we monitoring our progress? My name is Diana Sousa. I work as a senior expert at the Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy, and I'm very happy to see many of you joining this event today. I'm actually also the coordinator of the project JUSTEM, Just Transition and Empowerment Against Energy Poverty. And this project is one of the organizers of this event today. This event is co-organized by JUSTEM, then also the SITRANS project and RePower the regions, and is happening in the context of the Sustainable Energy Days. So warm welcome from our side. And before we start, just a few remarks. As you may have noticed, this event is recorded. And yes, during the event, it would be very nice if you please could all stay muted. If you could turn on your cameras, we would very much also appreciate it. Usually it's nicer to see some friendly faces during the event. And last but not least, you will have, of course, the possibility to ask a lot of questions to our great speakers that we invited to the event today. So please ask your questions either in the chat or during the Q&A session. You will also have the opportunity just to raise your hand and to ask your questions directly to our speakers. So yeah, let's just get started. And I'm actually handing over the word to the project coordinator of the SITRANS project, Yannis Vakorosi. He works at the Civil Protection Institute of the University of Western Macedonia and wants to tell us a little bit more about the relevance of the project. So why we are actually meeting here today. So Yannis, please, the floor is yours. Yannis, we can't hear you yet, so please, would be great if you could unmute yourself. Okay, it worked perfectly fine before, but as sometimes, you know, once you're in the event, things suddenly change. Yes, if you don't have Yannis back.
I think Yannis, you can unmute yourself now, I think.
Yes, I'm here. Somebody, actually, I had my micro and my camera muted closed before it. I couldn't open it. But I could hear what you said. Thank you, Diana. Just to say that it's a very good opportunity to have a discussion. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
Right. Just to say that we have a good opportunity today to discuss how we can actually capitalize on all those projects on territorial just transition. And the motto is leaving no one behind. And we just wanted to see how the monitoring of all those activities can actually facilitate the policymakers to move towards the expected, the waiting for this exercise in our regions. Our region, as you can hear from Professor Patias and Tassos Sidiropoulos and Natasha, our regions are facing a very difficult time nowadays. But we want to see this transition as an opportunity rather than as threat. The question is how we can transfer transfer all those experience from so many regions around Europe, how you can transfer into our region and into our practices. The main outcome of our SITRANS project will be the Just Energy Transition Observatory. Natasha Petros will talk about that a bit later. And the second main output is the project pipeline, the energy projects pipeline. That it's very, very important. Tassos Sidiropoulos, the head of Regional Development Agency of the whole region, will talk how the politicians deal with all those problems. And the third one, which is it's in our interest, but not our it's one of the main goals of our project, but not the main goal, is how we deal with energy poverty in our region. I think, Diana, I should stop here, and then if there is any need, we can communicate. I can answer to questions if they are, or I can interfere.
Thank you so much, Yannis. Yes, for the quick intro already also to the SITRANS project, like one of the co-organizing projects. We will also briefly jump to the other two projects that are also part of the event today. So as I mentioned, the project I'm representing here is the project JUSTEM, Justice in Transition and Empowerment Against Energy Poverty. And really the overall aim of this project is to really build regional capacity and to specifically involve the citizens in the preparation, but also in the implementation of the region's just transition plans. You can see here a map that JUSTEM is really active in 6 different core regions, and we have also one replication region where we are also implementing different workshops with citizens. We have done different studies and analysis, and on the right hand side you can see the great partners that are really doing an amazing job in our different just transition regions, really supporting locally the just transition regions. So yeah, we are at a critical point now of really proposing policy recommendations in each of the regions, how to implement better the just transition process, but also we're going to propose concrete projects that can be implemented in the different just transition regions, also with a strong focus on the subject of energy poverty. So what might be specific projects and measures that can combat energy poverty in the just transition regions. So that was it from the JUSTEM side. And then we have our third project, RePower the Regions. And there I would like to ask Dan Dobre from Bankwatch to give us also a brief overview about the context of the project.
Hello, everyone. Our project, RePower the Regions, ambitious and inclusive clean energy plans for repowering the just transition regions. It's its full name. I would say what's interesting about this project compared to our previous projects is the fact that we believe that probably within the Just Transition Fund and the Just Transition process, the territoriality aspect is one of the most relevant. And in this project, we chose to, in the Just Transition regions, also concentrate on smaller municipalities within the regions. So we are working with smaller municipalities and on specific topics in each municipality. We are focusing on 9 countries, which is Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, and Ukraine. And our aim is to help them in their desired. We are trying to understand what these municipalities need and what they want. They have varied interest between the countries, from district heating, energy communities, energy poverty, even transport. So what we are trying is to enhance their local potential, help the regions in developing decarbonization plans, find funding for projects that are not covered by the JTF, aid in capacity building, and enhance participatory and community planning at the local level.
Thank you so much, Dan, for the outline also of the RePower the Regions project. As you may have seen, there are a lot of synergies, right, between the projects. So a lot of kind of common goals or, aspects that we kind of try to tackle. So let's actually start with the debate and let's focus on the topic of monitoring. So are we actually monitoring the progress, and what are maybe the experiences so far? We have decided to split our discussion or our debate into two different sections. First, we want to talk about the challenges. So really looking into what challenges do regions face in monitoring the progress. And in the second part of the debate, we will look into the solutions. So what might be already solutions that are out there to improve also the monitoring process. So let's start with our first debate, and I'm very very happy to welcome to our debate four different speakers. First of all, we have Marina Elena Boatka from the Instituto Social Valley Giului. Then we have Krzysztof Pietraszewski from the Polish Green Network. We have with us Alexa Budhar from Friends of the Earth Hungary, and we have Tassos Sideropoulos from the Western Macedonian Development Agency. So warm welcome to our four speakers of this debate. So we will have smaller inputs from all of the four speakers now, one after each other. But please really take the opportunity to ask questions in the chat. So get your questions ready. Also, following this kind of small inputs, we will really have time for a longer discussions with, among the speakers and with all of the participants. But without further ado, maybe let's start. And Maria, I would be happy to give the floor first to you. And the question, of course, to you would be, so how's the monitoring actually set up in Romania? And what are the different challenges that you kind of see right now?
Thank you very much. So one important mention is that we are trying to focus this discussion on the Jiu Valley, which is a micro-region in the western part of Romania. And it is one of the beneficiaries of the just transition. Jiu Valley was severely affected by the reduction of coal mining activities. The transition from coal mining to a low-carbon energy system has led to high unemployment, migration of young people and adults, poverty, and social exclusion. Several organizations and 6 monitoring committees are involved in the governance of the transition to climate neutrality in Romania due to the cross-cutting dimension. The process is interrelational and institutional correlation is adamant to the efficient achievements of Romania's just transition objectives. In our country, there are 8 categories of monitoring entities, as you can see in the image shown on the slide, and they have responsibilities at various levels: national, sectoral, regional, or local. So first of all, we have the Ministry of Investments and European Projects with the Management Authority and the National Monitoring Committee. Then at the regional level, we have the West Regional Development Agency, which acts as an intermediate body. Further, we have Hunedoara County Council and Hunedoara County Monitoring Committee as county coordinators. and the Integrated Territorial Development Association, which is responsible for the Integrated Territorial Investments Mechanism, which endorses the compliance with the economic, social, and environmental development strategy of the Jiu Valley over the period 2022-2030, and also for the integrated approach of project proposals. So the Just Transition Plan was not designed to be the only solution to all the problems specific to each territory negatively affected by the coal phase-out process. The Just Transition Plan specifically aims to integrate the social dimension of the transition process with the ambitious objective of economic reconversion of mono-industrial areas or those dependent on a short value chain. Can you please switch to the second slide? Thank you. Also, Valea Jiului is the beneficiary of several projects. First of all was Tracer. Then we had START, in which the Technical Secretariat of the European Commission and DG Regio through PricewaterhouseCoopers carried out the strategy for the economic, social, and environmental development of the Jiu Valley over the period 2022-2030, the one that I already mentioned. Then we had JTP groundwork for technical assistance to support the implementation of just transition plans. Here we actually have two projects, one that was completed in December last year and the second project which started this year. And finally, we have JUSTEM. The monitoring activities in the Jiu Valley microregion have generated three main challenges: the multiplicity of funding opportunities, formalism, and the tree organization chart. So the Jiu Valley microregion has the Hunedoara County Monitoring Committee as a monitoring entity, which aims to meet the objectives proposed by the Just Transition and to comply with the legislative framework. However, there is a prominent formalism that has often been prioritized over action planning, which should aim for beneficiaries to have enough time to act. Another challenge is, as I've mentioned, the larger number of funding opportunities with a limited number of potential beneficiaries, because they sometimes don't have the know-how, the co-financing possibilities, and the capacity to submit project proposals. The time horizon is also problematic, a relatively short time frame, a few years, in which opportunities often overlap, leading to a low absorption of funds. However, this challenge was somehow successfully overcome recently, as the West Regional Development Agency announced that the funding call for SMEs had 150 proposals submitted, which can be considered a real success. So we are working towards overcoming all these challenges. And finally, the multi-level institutional tree chart, as you've seen on the previous slide, has generated a very dense structure. And the problem is that it has little flexibility, generating challenges related to transparency, accountability, and communication. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria, for the interesting insights from what is happening in the Jiu Valley. It looks, in fact, really like a kind of a complex structure. So let's see if there are some questions coming in for you. So please use the chat to ask your questions. That would be kind of great. But maybe, Maria, you can give some more insights. So yes, you showed this nice chart, right, on the previous slide. So does it, in fact, kind of work? Is there some efficient communication between the different levels? And do you think that the different actors know what is their responsibility?
For sure, they know their responsibilities. The problem is that if you have a big structure, you have a lot of bureaucracy, and bureaucracy slows down things. So sometimes it happens that the document, the official maybe announcement of something, may be released a little bit later than expected or desired, because there have been some bureaucracy-related steps that need to be kept because of legislative framework, for example, meaning that the actual time that the beneficiaries have to submit proposals can be accidentally, not intentionally, shortened, for example. Or sometimes it is a matter of communication because it is one thing to respect the rules. There are international rules. There are also national or local rules that can be respected inside the institutions. However, it is one thing to communicate informally, as maybe you've asked me something now and now I can respond, and it's another thing to have an official communication issued by an entity. So sometimes things are being slowed down, not on purpose, but because of the larger structure. They do their job quite well and they have performance, because if they wouldn't do this, we wouldn't be able to absorb any funds. The fact that we have project proposals shows that things still work.
Great, thank you so much, Maria, for the insights. I think there are no urgent questions for you now, but we will have anyway a longer discussion afterwards. So thank you so much. And I think we move on to Christoph for the second contribution, and moving basically from Romania now to Poland. And I think, Christoph, you wanted to tell us a bit more specifically about the Lotski region. So yeah, the question would be maybe what are your experiences from the Just Transition progress in the region, and specifically with regard to the monitoring.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me for the event. It's a great to be here with you, really. And I should say at first place that I'm a member of the two regional monitoring committees in Wielkopolska and in Łódzkie. But today I would like to tell you something about transparency in Just Transition in Łódzkie region. This region is very important for Poland because it's responsible for extracting almost 20% of the whole lignite in Poland and employing still a few thousand people right now. And the Just Transition process must to make a good and successful Just Transition process, mining should be quenched, and it would be a very big problem for the whole country if it won't be ended or finished with some success. The greatest problem for us as the monitoring committee members is the lack of transparency and rather poor cooperation with Polish Energetic Group and Mining and Conventional Energy. There are two different institutions, but they are responsible for the lignite in Łódzkie. We can't get any information from them due to the secret clause, trade secret clause. Sorry, due to the trade secret clause. Even local authorities have a lot of problems to get this information because of the same reason. As you can imagine, it has already made a lot of problems for JT process in Łódzkie. For instance, the authorities couldn't get any data that was necessary for territorial Just Transition plan for the right time, what caused a great delay in preparing the whole document. This year there was also the actualization of TJTP this year, and we had the same problem as well as the authorities of the region. Once again, we refused decision to show their data, and what is important is the data information includes, for example, the level of carbon dioxide emission, the amount of produced energy, or the level of lignite extraction. And they said all the same thing, that this information are trade secret and we shouldn't see it. Now we think about that, about going to the court to get this information in that way, because there is no will for talking from the other side, and this data is necessary for us to make our task in a monitoring committee. and also for local authorities, because it's also a great problem for them. And it's quite simple. If we can't monitor their work, we don't have. We can't monitor their work if we don't have the right data. And without cooperation from these two institutions, the whole process won't be successful, and people won't get involved in it. But it's very important in this region because it's in a very hard moment in their history. So that's the case and the subject that I wanted to tell you about it today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Christoph. Yeah, sounds quite a bit frustrating, right? If you want to do a great kind of work and then there are a lot of barriers actually to better assess what's kind of happening in the regions. Maybe can you share, like, how is it generally perceived in the public? Like, is there some awareness that this is also ongoing, and maybe how does it affect now also the overall just transition process?
I think that awareness is rising now, but it's still too little to have a good effect for authorities, for these institutions. We of course work on it, and it's still rising every month, every year, but it's a process, and I think we're maybe not at the only beginning, but it's a little it's not so far from the beginning. Oh, it could be the right sentence to say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Yes, so the Q&A box is kind of open. So please, like, if participants have questions, or maybe also, of course, if other speakers want to interfere and add, yeah, please feel free to do so by either using the Q&A box or even raising your hand. Otherwise, let's continue with our next speaker, Alexa. Let me just give a second to get the slides basically back. Of course, we are very interested to hear from your side, what are kind of your learnings from Hungary so far and the just transition process there, and specifically also from your work. So similar to Christoph, right, you're also closely involved in the monitoring committees. So maybe you can share with us some experiences also from the work of the monitoring committees. And if I'm not mistaken, there are also even subcommittees. How is the situation, and how do you assess the monitoring right now?
Thank you very much. In Hungary, there are like 3 affected regions. As you can see on the slide, in the north of Hungary, Heves and Baz, Borsod-Baur-Zemplén county. These are basically core regions. So with lignite mines, and in Heves there is the famous Matra power plant, lignite-fired Matra power plant. And Baranya is basically a carbon-intensive county with the cement industry and other related industries. So in these 3 regions, of course, the 3 territorial just transition plans were prepared, and these plans are part of the Energy and Environment Operational Program Plus. So an operational, it's basically an annex. These 3 TGTPs are as an annex of this operational program, and I'm in the monitoring committee of this EEOP monitoring committee. And as you can see, there are like 3 layers, 3 levels of committees, because there are also stakeholder committees. There is one stakeholder committee for the northern counties, 2 counties. And there is also a Baranya County Stakeholder Committee. And in this committee, it's basically the aim is to involve all the affected stakeholders and discuss the issues, propose inputs to the drafting of the course of proposal, selection criteria, beneficiaries, etc. So basically, these are a more general type of stakeholder committee with working on just transition. And so these stakeholder committees make recommendations to the next level, to the JTF subcommittee, Just Transition subcommittee, which is basically a subcommittee of the Environment and Energy Operational Program Monitoring Committee. And this subcommittee, so this middle level of subcommittee is actually channeling in the inputs and recommendations from both stakeholder committees, and basically gives opinion on the draft call for proposals and selection criteria and so on. And it's a kind of decision preparatory subcommittee, and the recommendations and of this subcommittee is fed into the Environment and Energy OP Monitoring Committee, which is a kind of a decision-making body. So, like, you know, the voting is there, and yeah, in the monitoring committee, basically, kind of if the draft proposal packages are, you know, well adjusted, then the monitoring committee votes on it and adopts it, and of course monitors the implementation, etc. And yes, so basically I'm in all the three levels of committees. I'm in the Banana Stakeholder Committee, in the JTF subcommittee, and in the monitoring committee. So I see all the levels and processes in it, well, basically, I would say that, you know, the managing authority is the one to ensure that you know, the recommendations of the committees are fed into the next level and, you know, properly channeled in. But yes, I can tell you an example, you know, how this is working, because it's, you know, it's I mean, the setup was proposed by also the European Commission and also the NGOs, so to have like this kind of three level of decision preparation, because it's there needs to be, you know, proper time and a platform to discuss the measures and really feed in the stakeholders aspects into the process. So in that aspect, for example, the local NGOs are basically in the stakeholder committees and in the JTF subcommittee, but in the monitoring committee level, there is like no direct member of those local actors. So actually, I need to ensure, and the managing authority needs to ensure, that all these processes are, all these kind of recommendations are properly fed into the monitoring committee. And here comes the challenge, because you know, in the TGTPs, it's explicitly the explicit commitment is that lignite firing, lignite-based electricity production by the Matra power plant will be phased out by 2025, and the whole plan basically all plans have a foundation on that. And but despite this, currently the government delayed this phase out. So now the phase out of the lignite firing is conditional to the new CCGT gas power plant to be built at the Matra site, which means that basically the lignite mining and the lignite firing is not a declining industry anymore till the new CCGT is being built and the lignite mining is ceased, and still the exact deadline is under discussion, but the government expects to build the CCGT by 2027. So that's when the coal units would be shut down, and also lignite mining is planned to be continued till 2029, end of 2029. And also the Matra power plant has an environmental permit till 2029. So the problem is that, you know, the just transition should go on, and the course of proposal should be out and launched while basically the whole just transition is not really happening, because kind of there's like no transitional processes going on neither in the Matra power plant, neither in the mines. And so that's what is also, this kind of debate is also reflected in the various committees, because how to prepare for an after mining reskilling of workers, found or like establish green economy, diversification, supply chains, new supply chains, while the kind of the lignite dependent supply chains and operation is still going on till 2027 or 2029. Yeah, so it's quite a big debate now in the committees, and basically the first course of proposals are like just being discussed now, so in these months, and because the Hungary will receive 250 million euro of JTF throughout these years, and basically 1/3 of this amounts approximately 80 million euro, which would go for this SMEs financial instrument for SMEs. And yes, so all the stakeholders and the future beneficiaries are having problems that how to prepare and how to like make sure that these course of proposals are really able to be implemented once it's out, when the whole process is and the situation with the Matra is ongoing. So I would say that that's, in the monitoring committee, it's kind of like a micro environment for the debates for the regions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alexa. Yeah, very interesting, like from the process that you have really kind of these local committees, right? And then in general, it goes kind of to higher levels. But at the same time, yeah, also interesting that you shared already the experience that while you're in the implementation, you already see there are, things that maybe not go as fast as expected, right? So there are already, plans that are kind of delayed, which is of course then, yeah, relevant also for the monitoring kind of as such. Great. So let's move on to our last speaker, to Tassos Sideropoulos from the Western Macedonian Development Agency. And Tassos, yeah, the question to you would be, of course, as well, like, what is kind of the role of monitoring currently in Western Macedonia? So what's kind of the value of the monitoring kind of you see there? And what are maybe specific, experiences and challenges that you are facing right now?
Thank you very much, and also for the invitation. And I would like to thank Yannis for inviting me in this very interesting discussion. Just transition for Western Macedonia, maybe Yannis has already talked about it, is a very big problem, and also it's a very big challenge for Western Macedonia. Maybe the region of Western Macedonia was so far the energy center of Greece, and the meaning, the participation of the energy sector at the local, at the regional GDP was approximately 40 to 50%. So just transition is a very big equation that has to be solved, because the transition is very radical. We as a regional organization involved in this issue from 2012, participating in some working teams that was aiming to estimate the impact of the transition in terms of income and jobs. the results was very. We applied a model, input-output model, that will be it will used worldwide in order to estimate some kind of transition, economic transition, and we find out that the multiplier for jobs dependent on energy sector was about 4. So it was a very big challenge how we could replace the energy sector with other or alternative activities in order to, a very short time, achieve the relevant results. In a short time, the result is that we have lost 10% of our population because the young people are leaving Western Macedonia in order to find out jobs. So the challenge is ongoing. Now, regarding the procedure that have been followed in Western Macedonia is something like a mixed system, because it began in a regional level, at a regional level, with teamworks in order to estimate the impact, in order to propose some kind of programs. But afterwards, after 2019, the Ministry of Development take the step and organized a system that includes from planning to implement and monitoring the whole system. Now, the general aspect is that the system is centralized and not regional, because there is. I noticed the presentation from Hungary, and I have seen some similarities about that. There is the Ministry of Development. There is the Committee of Territorial Committee, and the operational and the managing authority of the operational program. I have to mention that also in Greece there is an operational program for just transition that has been approved by the European Commission with a very serious budget. But due to the bureaucracy that is established in Greece so far, its implementation is in a very low rate. So we have to run more specifically, more intensively, mainly with the participation of the region. During the last months of 2023 and now on 2024, we have a new regional authority that have posed some new demand on this for the implementation of the operational program, because we believe that the local authorities have the most must have the basic role about the proposals, how they want their development, and of course to have the base the information that have to be widespread in the Western Macedonia region, that is very low so far, because the citizens don't know details about how they could use the funds from the operational program. For the Western Macedonia, the operational program is about 1 billion. Now we are running the second year after the agreement, after the approval, and the real implementation of the program is very low. So, following the priorities of the operational program that has entrepreneurship, neutrality, climate neutrality, and energy transition, just labor transition, because labor is a very crucial, speaking about reskilling and upskilling of human resources, are very, very crucial to be consolidated with the people in order to have calls that could be adjusted to the needs of the Western Macedonia people. So I think that many things have to be done more intensively during this period. I think Yannis maybe have its opinion about that, and the participation and the involvement of the local authorities and the local citizens and NGOs has to be more strong in order to have a program that will be useful for the Western Macedonia.
Thank you so much, Tassios.
That's for now. And
great, thank you so much for sharing the insights, also specifically challenges now with the implementation. Maybe a quick follow-up. You mentioned that bureaucracy is a barrier for the implementation. Is this also a challenge really for monitoring the progress? And have you set up also, like similar as you had from the other speakers already, like a monitoring committee or like a stakeholder committee on local level? Could you briefly elaborate on that? That would be great. Thank you so much. Yeah, Tassios, please unmute yourself if possible, and then we can have you back.
sorry, but
great, we can hear you.
During your speaking, the phone calls, and I have a phone call, and I lost your words. So could you
Yes.
repeat?
Of course.
I'm sorry.
No worries. I was wondering if bureaucracy is also a challenge now for the monitoring process, and if you could elaborate a little bit more, if you have set up already a monitoring committee, or maybe also a stakeholder committee more on the regional level, because you emphasized on the importance, right, also to engage the citizens on the local level. Thank you so much.
Yes, we as a development organization are in close cooperation with the region and the university, and many maybe Yannis and Mr. Patias could be more about the some kind of observatory regarding the impact, but regarding just the monitoring, the region have set up an internal committee in order to notice about the progress of the operational program for just transition, in order to communicate with the central one that operates at the central level. So I think that this first months of the regional authority is are very crucial in order to go further, to have a better monitoring of the program, and of course it will be very effective also for the program itself, in order to achieve more effectiveness and It will be more usefulness for the entrepreneurship, in general for the local economy, because energy transition for Greece means economic transition at all for Western Macedonia.
Thank you so much, Tassos, for elaborating on that. Very, very interesting. So also to see the comparisons, between the different countries and regions. Everyone, please feel invited again to put your questions in our Q&A box. So then we can have a really integrative discussion. We have one question for you, Christoph, you may want to answer. So how are you as a committee monitoring the whole process? Could you elaborate a little bit on that? And maybe how successful do you think you can be in the current context?
So I answered in the question and answers window. So I maybe read it only if it's not a problem. In my opinion, it's a rather hard and responsible role. It also demands a lot of time, effort, knowledge from us, but it's worth it because it's a great job for me, in my opinion. We cooperate with the authorities of the region, and in many cases, we even share the same problems, for example, with accessing to the information. I think it's quite good cooperation now between us and authorities. But I think JT process in Łódzkie needs more impact of people from this region. Knowledge about JT process is still too little, and it could be a problem in the future in understanding the change that will come in the future, in my opinion. So I think I hope I answered the question quite well.
Thank you so much, Christoph. And we got another question for, I think, all the different speakers about are there interesting approaches, indicators, qualitative and quantitative methods you kind of apply to measure the impact of the territorial just transition plans and related activities in your regions? So maybe, you proceed all this great work in the committees. Is there also some specific methods and tools you may apply in those to measure the progress and the impacts? Who would like to go in first? You can just unmute yourself or raise your hand and then.
For the case of Western Macedonia, I think Natasha will talk in the next session, because actually what they are doing is monitoring the whole thing in the region, but not only the political aspect, but they are using all the statistical tools for all the other aspects as well.
Thanks, Yanis. Yeah, that's great. So we will have, as you said, Natasha telling a bit more about how it's done. I will also tell a bit more about the JUSTEM context in the next session. But maybe anyone else from the committee perspective, any specific methods and tools that are used from the work, or anything you want maybe to share some insights, how you organize yourself, maybe with the different groups in, really tracking kind of the progress.
Can I come in on this? I know
Yes,
I'm not
of
from
course.
this panel.
Oh, no, that's fine. Everyone can come in. Yes.
So as Banquet, we are in and our partners, so two of which are here present. So Alexa Botar and Krzysztof Pietruszewski. So we work on 8 countries, and they're in all of the monitoring committees, so we actually have quite a good overview of how they work in all of the countries. And at the moment, all of the monitoring committees and managing authorities on the various levels are doing evaluations of where they're at in terms of fund spending, the types of projects and amounts of projects that have been contracted in majority, because we can't really talk about any projects being fully implemented yet. So we're at a very initial phase, but aside from this, as NGOs, we're also looking at this data and gathering how the process is going. So I think lots of different institutions, both on the regional, national, and EU levels, and also non-governmental organizations like us, are monitoring how well the process is going. And I would say it's very diverse. So you have some countries which are doing it slower. Other countries which are going quite fast. I think a lot of this will be available in evaluations done also at the European Commission level towards the end of the year. So I would expect some comparative and collective data to be issued by the European Commission, maybe already now. Probably already now there's some data available, but a lot of it will also be presented to the new European Parliament in October, probably during the first plenary sessions. So the evaluation is ongoing right now, and we are already seeing a lot of interesting data. Some of the regions and countries are really pushing forward with it. In others, they're spending more time on the consultation. So Maria Boatka mentioned Romania. They spent a lot of time developing the SME project selection criteria and the call for proposals to make sure that it addressed the needs in the region. For this reason, this is the only call for proposals that has been launched, but it covers 50% of the Romanian allocation. So this shows that sometimes you need to devote a little bit more time to make the consultation really address the needs of the regions. But if you do it that way, then you have very high results, like in the case of Romania, where they had a lot of applications for that. In Poland, for example, the Eastern Wielkopolska region will have 65% of its allocation done by the end of the year. One of the missing things, I think, is something that a lot of research institutes can look into. So what is the transformative potential of these projects? But that will only be able to be assessed when we have more knowledge about what kind of projects are being implemented and how much they actually add to the transition and to the transformation process. Diana, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yes, I thank you so much for the contribution. I think it was very interesting. So thanks a lot for sharing the experiences also from other country contexts and the overall evaluation. What we can maybe also expect from the European Commission side. So I now see Alexa, you raised your hand, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just adding to that, so we are basically in the monitoring committee in the middle of the process of this like finalizing of the draft call for proposal and selection criteria for this first call for proposal for the SMEs financial instrument. And basically Romania is already like past that, but we are like basically testing now the 3-level structure, how to really effectively like ensure that this first calls for proposal and this financial instrument is really serving its purpose. And yes, it's also in Hungary, it's like 1/3 of the whole JTF. So it's a kind of a big start for that. And yes, we hope that, and we are now in the process of ensuring that yeah, this call for proposal is really adequate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Maria, yes, please.
Yes, so I wanted to mention that the Social Institute of G Valley, which is partner in JUSTEM project, cooperates with 4 categories of stakeholders for monitoring activities, and they are also part of the county monitoring committee. So the stakeholders are the local administration institutions and businesses, the entrepreneurial environment in the micro region, the academia and the civil society, sorry. So this means that the monitoring activity aims to be quite complex and thorough, because as I've already mentioned, the just transition doesn't only focus on the energetic transition, but also has aspects related to demography, to the social dimension of the society, and the technical assistance, education. There are a lot of activities that need to be monitored, not only the energetic transition.
Thank you so much. I think, yeah, it's a very, very important point, right? That it's not only an energy transition when we talk about just transitions, but really, yeah, about a whole broader like transformation, right, of the regions in the socioeconomic terms. So very important point. Yes, so I don't know if we have from our participants, anyone who wants still to share some experiences or ask a question. Maybe we have someone else being part of one of the monitoring committees. Then, of course, feel welcome kind of to raise your hand. We can always bring you in also to join the debate more actively. Otherwise, of course, we will have now more time for discussion. The solution space was already a little bit addressed. So what might be different methods and tools, not only to monitor progress, but maybe also more to move on towards measuring the actual impact of the activities. And this will be kind of now the focus of our second debate. So let's big thank you to all our different speakers in the first kind of panel that we just had. It was very interesting. Thanks a lot for being with us. And of course, you can also come in again during the second panel as well. So we look forward to hear more from you. And now I'm handing over to Dan from Bankwatch to moderate this kind of second panel debate.
Thank you, Diana. Maybe it's worth mentioning at the start of the discussion that already at the European level, we are starting to talk about the success of the just transition process, or is it a success or not? And it's a kind of a debate at the moment. And I think before we can start talking about success, we need to make sure that we are looking at the same things, and monitoring is part of that. The monitoring committees are for sure one answer to the question, how do we monitor the progress of the just transition process? But I think it's important to look beyond this answer and see if we have other tools and other methods to monitor the progress of the just transition process. And to get in the discussion, I will ask Miroslava Stampian from Bankwatch to talk about the monitoring committees in Silesia and also this idea of preparing a JT observatory at the European level and also in Silesia. So, Miroslava.
Yeah, since I already talked a lot about the monitoring committees in my answer to your question, I will focus on the Just Transition observatories and also some various tools which are already ongoing, sort of in various ways, monitoring the process. So let's start maybe with the Silesian Just Transition Observatory. So generally, what is the idea behind an observatory? This is is usually something which brings together a wide variety of stakeholders. So it's in a way similar to the monitoring committee, but it doesn't have to be structured in the same way. And usually it can have and should have two elements, or three maybe. One of them is doing research and evaluation of various aspects of the just transition process. The second is capacity building. So using all of this research and data and analysis and developing the capacities of people on all levels for the transition process and for the transformation process, which is a huge and complex process. And the third one is collecting data, knowledge, toolkits, and making sure it reaches the people who most need it. One such example is the Silesian Just Transition Observatory. So this was actually set up by a public institution, because it was set up by the Marshal's Office for the Silesian Voivodeship. but it was done in collaboration with various partners. So, for example, trade unions, research institutes, and I know also some NGOs were at least participating in many of the meetings. So also this can be a space to bring together various stakeholders. And in this case, unfortunately, the observatory was just a 2-year project. So right now they're thinking about extending it and continuing with it. But in the couple of years that it worked, it did some research. So, for example, it helped to develop the strategic priorities for the transition in Silesia. And this was mostly focused on the development of entrepreneurship and economic diversification. They also looked at the perspectives and prospects of the miners and the trade unions in the region, because in trying to plan a just transition, one of the main things that is the focus is how do we support the people who will be losing their jobs, and it's important to understand what challenges the miners are facing, what prospects they have, depending on their skill sets, their experience, their age, and also to understand what they are able to agree to within the transition. So I know that such research was done both in Silesia, but in a lot of the other just transition regions as well, in Eastern Wielkopolska as well. And this doesn't have to be done within the scope of an observatory, but an observatory allows for some sort of structure to be in place. They also did capacity building. So, for example, they did a new technologies workshop. They did a workshop with municipalities, very practical, on preparing projects within the scope of the just transition, because one of the biggest challenges for just transition is coming up with innovative solutions, handling the transition. Silesia is actually very it's in a convenient position because this is a huge agglomeration with research institutes, a lot of very active citizens, other economic branches, but such structures are even more necessary in regions that are more rural and or with smaller municipalities that require even more of a building of capacities. So this is one such example. I know we're going to hear about the Spanish example in a moment, which I think is very interesting. So looking forward to hearing about that. A similar idea was also proposed primarily, I think, by Industrial, which is it's a coalition. Well, it's a network of industries that are going to be transitioned. So they have also talked a lot about developing an EU Just Transition Observatory. And right now there are talks within the European Commission about implementing and introducing something like this towards the end of 2024, at maximum at the beginning of 2025. As far as I understand, DG Employment and DG Regio are collaborating on the development of this. So this will be something like a repository of evidence-based knowledge. And there's a lot out there because, as we know from our projects, there's the stuff that's going on in LIFE, Horizon, and other similar projects that are developing tools that have a lot of research, that have a lot of analysis. But there are also the JT, the Just Transition platform, where there also have a lot of evidence already and knowledge. So it is necessary to sort of bring all this together and streamline it. Then this will be a platform for the exchange of knowledge on the Just Transition process. Mapping best practices, which is also similar to a lot of what our projects are doing, and bringing together various stakeholders to sort of exchange. But I would like to mention maybe in summary that if you look at the Just Transition platform itself, in a way it already functions as such an observatory because it brings together very many stakeholders. They also have various technical assistance that they provide that we even heard about today. So this is, for example, groundwork. And another sort of platform that does something similar is the Coal Regions in Transition Initiative. which offered the START technical assistance, which is, so you have a large amount of toolkits, knowledge, evidence, analyses, solutions that have already been developed and, for example, are available on the Just Transition platform website. So the European Commission already is doing quite a lot to gather all of this information. And if anyone has attended the Just Transition platform, they can also, see what kind of projects are being developed in the region, and get some inspiration for that. A similar event is the annual political dialogue organized by the Coal Regions in Transition Initiative, where you also can have, elements of evaluation and a presentation of what's happening in the different regions. And I would add to this also, you have the Just Transition peers and Just Transition experts, which is also part of the Just Transition platform's technical assistance, which was it was actually partially inspired by our interventions when we mentioned what technical assistance regions need. So they need technical assistance which provides very, very specific help for smaller stakeholders primarily, in developing solutions, in analyzing the situation they're in and how to get out of it. And so a lot of these technical assistance that I've mentioned right now is trying to answer this. I think this is effective to a varying extent, but it's based on a needs analysis. It's based on what the regions say they want and need. And it's done very much in cooperation with actors on the ground and stakeholders on the ground. So this is a huge step forward in, providing non-generic, very focused technical assistance. And I think I'll finish with that. So from our perspective, we think there's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of knowledge and evidence. What we need is streamlining and finding a way in which we can use this knowledge in developing policy, in developing technical assistance that really addresses the needs, and in monitoring and evaluating how the process is going and providing solutions. So thank you very much. That's it from me.
Thank you, Milka. I believe one way of streamlining it is just the 5-minute recording with you explaining everything. I think it was really comprehensive and everything was there. So thank you. It was good that this was the first presentation because it set up the table for the whole discussion, I would say. Maybe one small question for you would be, would you recommend to other people who work in the regions to set up a JT observatory similar to the one in Silesia? And why was it only 2 years? Is it a good example? That's probably the question.
I think it doesn't have to necessarily be such an observatory. I think what is needed is some sort of framework within which these various stakeholders can come together. And so that they don't overlap, because I think I remember, I'm not sure who mentioned it earlier, but someone talked about all these overlapping initiatives. So what we're seeing happening in the regions is that sometimes they are overwhelmed by the amount of people coming in and trying to sort of provide workshops, provide support, etc. So it needs to be more structured so that it's one place where all of this is happening. And then it's sort of easier to somehow manage it. It doesn't have to be an observatory. I think an observatory is just a word, a term that some people use, but it can be a platform, it can be a forum, it can just be a space where you bring together researchers, NGOs from all of the different levels, because in the regions what we're seeing is we have both local and regional actors, researchers, NGOs, but we also have national level, we have from larger agglomerations, because these are becoming topics that are really interesting for a lot of different groups. But they need to come into the regions and actually meets the people. So one of the issues we've had is like with people coming from outside, not really trying to understand or not, because you need to devote time. You need to devote time to actually understand a region. You need to know the people there. And you need to be cooperating with them on a regular long-term basis and not just come in for a 2-month project. So, you know, an observatory can be sort of a space to gather a lot of information and to support the people, not like using them constantly to pull out information, but to actually help them by asking them what they need and then answering what they need. Okay, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it's what we're seeing in the regions happening. Like you have these active players and they keep being asked for input into various documents that don't really add to the conversation sometimes.
Thank you, Milka. Before we move on, I want to remind everyone that you can put your questions in the chat and we will discuss them at the end. Moving on from Poland to Spain, Cesar Valmaceda on the Asturian JT Observatory and the alignment of 2 regional strategy under the same observatory. So please, Cesar.
Thank you very much, Stan. Could you hear me properly?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just let me share with you some ideas about our Asturias Observatory. Probably you know that Asturias is one of the European regions in transition, leading one hard and challenging energy and just transition process. My name is Cesar Valmaceda. I'm representing to FINE. FINE is the Regional Energy and Climate Agency in Asturias, and we are trying to accompany this process, supporting our regional government and the whole Asturian society, from citizen to industry and other economic sectors. Some of our main goals in FINE is the promotion of action related to energy and climate, from the demonstration of innovative solutions to dissemination activities, and for sure, trying to support and advise our regional government in the definition and implementation of energy and climate strategies and action plans. So in this regards, this includes the support to our Asturian regional just transition plans and this observatory. Yes, in this slide, the main goal of this observatory is just to accompany this just transition process, to follow the pathway on the road, trying to join force by monitoring the evolution of a selected and let's see, easy to quantify set of KPIs, pushing the participation, try to push the participation of citizen entities and other kind of social organization, and providing, or at least trying to achieve, the greatest level of transparency. So we are trying to promote around this observatory 4 regional strategies, the energy strategy, climate, raw materials, and the industry strategy, and also for sure the territorial just transition plan. Next, please, Dan. Thank you. So at this point, I would like to highlight the fact that when we talk about the observatory around how to perform their activities, we are not only focusing the attention and effort in KPIs, on metrics or assessment, as Miroslava was talking before. We are not only in that, we like to sense the feeling of the societies and how to feel the heartbeat of the region around the transition, so how to ask them as how green or just our transition is. For that, the stakeholder composition is a key point to address. And so representative from the whole society are trying to be involved in the process, at least invited to participate in this observatory committee. On the other hand, this focus of the observatory, this intention to join force, is additionally represented not only by the specific action around the promotion of these stakeholders, but also in the governance model selected to pay and guide the way. So taking those into account, regarding the actions, for sure, some of the core actions will be monitoring and assessment of strategies around indicators, also in charge of preparing technical reports and catching up nice best practice related to the just and energy transition in Asturias. And all of this investigating how to work with data, how to transform data or just only data into information or useful information, especially oriented to the promotion of open data initiatives against the challenge of transparency, dissemination, and also keeping a permanent communication channel with citizens. Next, please. How to do that? The team has to be somehow as much comprehensive as possible, as was said in previous speech. The technical coordination of this observatory is guided by our regional government, in particular the regional Ministry of Ecological Transition, Industry and Economic Development, where the General Directorate of Energy and Climate are embedded and supported by us, fine as regional energy agency, but also national, regional, local authorities are integrated, something like the Spanish Just Transition Institute and other ministries or regional departments like social, housing, territory, rural, and the proper representation of our municipalities. We have 78 municipalities in Asturias, so it's a great challenge just to address this upscaling process to them. Also, Chamber of Commerce, Association of Companies, and other key stakeholders, maybe more representing people, citizens like social agents, unions, and other kind of association. And for sure, as JUSTEM Life Project say, try to encourage and enabling once again the citizen participation in this process. Next, please, Dan. All of them we try to properly embed and fully integrate in our governance model. So all of these agents, all of these actors, we try to embed in this 4 ecosystem: the executive committee, advisory committee, consultative committee, and the whole stakeholders. So next slide, please. But for sure, we have also indicators and metrics. In fact, we have more than 500 indicators, but please don't panic. Only my colleagues suffer this painful issue. And all of them are well structured and distilled to conveniently catching up the relevant and useful information from data and transforming this number in useful information, not only for our policymaker, also for investor and our cities. And for that, one exhaustive set of analysis, calculation tools, energy model simulation are behind the backstage curtains. Just only to finalize, next please, to finalize only showing the easy to follow summary of key indicators, showing, as you can see in the slide, the progress of such indicators against these short-term 2030 objectives. And next, please. My last slide talking about conclusion. That's the main conclusion of this work. This program could be something like this Asturian observatory is following not only monitoring the progress and advance from the 4 related regional strategies plus the territorial just transition plan and funds. We are placing together in the same room all key actors, public and private, and we are strongly pushing this connection. And last but not least, we are working on promote a culture based of transparency and open data to attract as much as we can citizen attention and their participation. And next, please. I think that's all from my side. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cesar. I think Spain is one of the more interesting, if not the most interesting country that's going through this process now, because it does seem like it has maybe the best examples of how to do things right in most cases. Maybe my interest would be, I'm just a curiosity, how is the JT Observatory, how does it work in relation to the monitoring committee?
The idea is just try to, in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, the European colleagues were visiting Asturias and was meeting with our regional government, and some of these stakeholders was invited to follow the meetings with this technical committee. And from one hand, we are in charge to compile, collect, and cook data prepare the convenience indicators, and then try to represent and follow up this information to the different stakeholders, in between them the monitoring committee. So as you probably know, just a couple of weeks ago, the first funding was approved for Spain, for the Asturias government. So we are quite happy with that. And the idea is just, as far as we have now this acceptance, this approval in the table, we need to push these activities to monitor, to follow up, following the activities, the projects, to address the main goals of the region.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for this example. I think it's inspiring for all of us. We can move on. I'm not sure, Diana, is there someone from University of Salonique who can present?
Yes, Dan, I'm doing the presentation. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. In the SITRANS project, Just Energy Transition Observatory is developed in the form of the Just Transition Hubs created at all partners' collocations. The JETO monitors, analyzes, and evaluates clean energy transition and provides robust policy recommendations. Those hubs are to be a part of the international network of knowledge and know-how exchange, such as the Initiative of Coal Regions in Transition and the Just Transition Platform. In practice, the JET operates as an independent evaluation mechanism, producing evidence-based reports and studies on clean energy transition. To this end, the JETO delivers periodic reports based on indicators, comparative analysis, and policy recommendations, and in addition, will enhance networking at the EU, national, and local level, mobilizing scientific dialogue and debate on clean energy transition. To accurately demonstrate the concept of JETO, 4 sections can be distinguished: monitoring, used for internal management; interaction, to engage public participation; reporting and policy making for the key stakeholders engagement; and knowledge repository for public and authoritative access. Under the monitoring section, repositories for geospatial data, indicators data, and data analysis results have been developed on local, national, and European level. For the need of each repository, several migration and analysis tools are being established and used for the import of spatial and descriptive data. Monitoring portrays a crucial role in the internal management, which is held through applications on mobile devices and desktop PCs. In the interaction section, citizens, key stakeholders, and the public can support the data collection through consultation and evaluating actions, policies, and the relative project's impact. This is achieved by diverse public participation and engagement tools such as surveys, workshops, etc. Reporting and policy making displays the data analysis results, the project's impact analysis, and the investment impact. Various tools are developed for regular reporting, newsletters, deliverables, and others, as well as dashboards, thematic maps, and surveys analysis results for dynamic reporting and policy making. The key stakeholders' engagement is accessed through applications on mobile devices and desktop PCs. Finally, data and content repository are developed in the form of catalogs, metadata retrieve, and all projects and regular reports. Access to this knowledge repository will be granted to the public and authorities. If we can change the slide, please. Data were obtained from open spatial data sources, national and European agencies and services, as well as several online databases. These data have been collected for the 4 regions: Western Macedonia in Greece, Sardinia in Italy, Silesia in Poland, and Stara Zagora in Bulgaria, that are the case studies of the SITRANS projects. 4 categories compose the indicators that attract in JETO. These are the environmental indicators, the energy poverty indicators, social indicators, and economy indicators. If we can move on with another slide. Thank you. We monitor environmental indicators in the first category, including installed renewable energy sources, RES production, energy efficiency, and energy pollution. The second category includes indicators of energy poverty, specifically the absolute energy expenditure below half the national median, and the share of energy expenditure above twice national median. The third category is represented by social indicators, such as the share of the elderly population, the long-term unemployment rate by sex, and the percentage of people at risk of poverty or social exclusion. Finally, the economy indicators, the purchasing power adjusted GDP per capita, the R&D personnel by sector, and the labor productivity in total economy, and the European Regional Competitiveness Index complete the set of indicators being studied. Through a comparative analysis of these indicators while assessing the spatial dimension, the JET and the SITRANS project aim to support policy making. In addition, input from experts through scenario building tools and citizen science is incorporated, adding to the aspect of the public participation. That's the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this presentation. Maybe a more general question, at least at this point.
Dan, can
please.
I add to what just Natasha said? It is obvious that we can use as much indicators as we want, but we prefer to start with those 15, 20 indicators to make sure that the whole system works, because we are producing reports after all those gathering and analysis. It will be very, very interesting, and just I'm proposing that to all our colleagues around this table today. If we can actually exchange ideas on the indicators, the most proper indicators we can use just to make sure that throughout Europe at least we measure the same thing. So that will help Diana a lot to have an overall idea what is going on around Europe. So that's a proposal that came to me just now, to regulate in a way the indicators than different systems, different observatories, different platforms measure. So I'll come back with a proper note later on, maybe next week, to address to everybody this in this meeting, to see if we can cooperate on that. And the second thing I wanted to say is but this is a question, so I leave it for question and answer session. That's a question for our friend from Spain, because for me, the whole system, the administrative system, looks very open to everybody. So I hope that this is only to get some information, not to be involved in the development of the tool.
Thank you, Yanis. Yeah, for sure. We are more than open to collaborate in and accept your invitation to address the different ideas and topics about not only the analytics indicators, but also how to are working in the relationship with another stakeholders. So for sure, we are open to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you, Yanis. Thank you, Anastasia. We move on to Diana, who will present the JUSTEM impact matrix. Diana, please.
Yes, Dan, thank you so much. So yeah, we heard just from SITRANS, also from the RePower EU project. And now I would like to provide some insights from JUSTEM. In the framework of our project, actually, we also wanted to tackle the multiple impacts that the just transitions can have for the different coal regions. And in order to do so, we developed an impact matrix and actually also an indicator matrix that can be used kind of in tandem to assess the territorial just transition plans. So we applied this kind of impact matrix we have developed to the 6 different coal regions to really assess the often like expected impacts. So I think one of the learnings was already that the territorial just transition plans often not really address all the impacts in the regions right now sufficiently, but it's rather like what are maybe expected impacts that might kind of emerge in the future. And I put you this impact matrix kind of here. So what you can basically see is that we have 4 different impact dimensions: social impacts, economic impacts, demographic impacts, and environmental impacts. And for each of the dimensions, we have so-called impact categories. They are similar to some extent to what we kind of have heard kind of before from the observatories that have been just presented. And in fact, also for all the impact categories, we try to identify suitable quantifications. But I think we also have to be honest that not everything can be necessarily be quantified. So maybe that might be something I would like to discuss also with the other projects, how we are dealing, for example, with specific indicators that are only more of a qualitative nature. For example, considering the aspect of social cohesion or social inclusion, exclusion, which is often like discussed in the just transition debates, but which might be much harder to capture and we might be not able to put a specific number to it. But nevertheless, it's kind of very important when we are talking about just transitions in order to ensure that we are moving actually overall to a just transition process. So what you can see here is then basically like a traffic light for the expected impacts in our 6 different JUSTEM regions. Green is overall that the just transition plans are quite positive about the impacts. Red is that an overall negative impact is expected. Blue means that the impact is not really clear or has been not sufficiently analyzed to make really a clear statement. And gray means that it's not kind of considered at all. And I forgot to mention yellow. Yellow is kind of a mixed impact. So it will be kind of positive and negative, which might be the case for most of the indicators, of course, kind of in fact. So what are kind of the key learnings? So first of all, what we can see is, okay, there are some positive and negative impacts, but definitely there are also some, red areas. What we also see is there are also a lot of gray areas, so where the impacts are not considered, or maybe blue, not even sufficiently understood. And we learned that this is basically the case when we talk about the social and the cultural impacts. So often the just transition plans, and I think many regions, they are great in assessing, the impacts on employment. But when it really comes more to the softer impacts, then there is really a lack of attention to specific factors, for example, also like cultural identity, energy poverty, or really the aspects like on community cohesion and maybe even gender implications that are kind of often neglected in the just transition plans so far. And the second observation that we made, that often the impacts are not sufficiently quantified. Of course, if you talk about indicators, it would imply, we have a good understanding also of the quantitative nature of the different multiple impacts of the transitions, but that's actually often not the case. So I think there really the observatories or such an impact matrix tool, an indicator matrix, can kind of help the different regions to better understand, okay, there are different areas where we have to pay attention towards. Otherwise, we may not ensure that we are really leaving no one behind in our different regions. So I think what is crucial is that we know the expected impacts to facilitate the tailored policies and investments, and actually to ensure that we in the end achieve really a positive impact in our just transition regions. And we also kind of call for an improved qualitative and quantitative impact assessment along with the monitoring. So such a tool can be then maybe used in specific monitoring committees that are looking for some assistance. But of course, the it could be also part and integrated into observatories that are currently under development. So Dan, I will leave it here, and happy also to answer any questions that the audience may have or our fellow speakers.
Thank you so much, Diana. Yanis, do you have a question? You are muted.
I have quite a lot of questions, but if you stay into the diagram that the assessing tool, Diana, Diana, if you can show us again your slide, please. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, Diana, that the two regions are putting more red, more yellows, more blue in your diagram. Here are West Macedonia and Silesia, which both those two regions together with Stara Zagora are partners in the other project, the SITRANS project. I do coordinate. So it will be interesting if we just ask the people they are involved into SITRANS project, if you allow me to use your assessing tool here, this matrix, to see if they come up with the other people with the same colors, just to see if that's a good test for the matrix. If you understand what, if I can give you what I wanted to say here. That's very interesting. I like this matrix a lot. It's very simple to be used, but very, very valuable. Just looking at the dimensions, the impact dimensions, more or less those dimensions are the dimensions which we are using when we assess projects, proposal for investments, everything like that. So it's very interesting. Thank you, Diana, for that. I like it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Yanis. Maybe just briefly to add. So yes, it has been a qualitative assessment, right, of the territorial just transition plans. So it's up to the two researchers that basically looked into the plans out how the color code kind of developed. But we are clear kind of with the gaps, for example, where there was nothing mentioned at all. That's definitely not mentioned in the different plans. And maybe to also add what also specifically my colleague Marco did was then taking the specific indicators, so more the quantitative approach, and also assessing then the quantitative indicators for the different regions and how they are looking right now. And there you can definitely see that often, like similar to what is assessed here, like Western Macedonia was the one that appeared to have highly negative impacts for most of the also more quantitative indicators, Silesia partially as well, Stara Zagora. So there is some, something that is reflected here is then often also quantitatively assessed with statistics until now, right? And now the question is, can we turn it around? So can we actually implement sufficient measures then to address, for example, the depopulation of the regions, or to address specific measures for demigration, of people from the regions? And I think that's then the specific role also of the projects, to not only talk about, single measures and not only measures about energy and how to bring up new great energy projects and so-called, I call them monster projects, right? But also how can we, ensure that we implement maybe smaller projects that specifically tackle also specific social and demographic challenges in the regions.
Yeah, it seems that Marco Pareto can do an excellent Pareto analysis. So that's it. Good.
Thank you, Diana. We can move on if anyone else has any questions to any of the presentation, I would say, at this point.
Maybe I raised already the question and maybe wanted to hear the feedback from the others, like, because I'm also a fan of indicators, and it makes things, more simple. Or you can put a number and that's nice. But I don't know, like maybe some reflections from the others. How can we maybe, deal maybe with the softer, aspects that can be maybe not quantified. So maybe also from the observatories, like how do you think it needs to be clear that maybe there might be other aspects that are not covered in those quantitative analysis, but that are crucial and should be maybe complemented by maybe more qualitative methods. If anyone has some thoughts on that, how can we ensure that they are not falling over the table? I would be very interested. Maybe Cesar, you want to start because you had this plus 500. Oh no, I see. Milka, you maybe want to start, and then Cesar, you can you can add later. Yeah.
So just very quickly, we have been looking a lot into what it means that something is a transformative project, and this is not something that you can easily sort of analyze with purely qualitative data. We also cooperate with the Bolster Horizon project, which is looking into how to include vulnerable groups and marginalized communities that are frequently left out of such processes because from the get-go, these are communities that are frequently more difficult to come in contact with, to sort of bring into the process for a variety of reasons. Because if they're marginalized, this obviously means that they're frequently not already not within various processes of communication. So in such cases, looking at both of these things, so looking at what is transformative and including these marginalized communities, you need very specific tools. So for the marginalized communities, you need to be very proactive about involving them. So when you're analyzing this, it's not always about numbers. It's more about the extent to which you are actually able to even bring them to the table, to see what they need from the process and whether they're even being involved to any extent. Sometimes in many of these processes, the communities such as these are not really very easily includable, I would say. And then making recommendations about how to adjust the process so that they are. Energy poverty is another such examples, because frequently people who are challenged by energy poverty are people who are distrusting of public authorities, who are not really participating in the types of bodies that we're talking about. So you need to be very proactive and actually go into these communities. And then going back to the second topic of the transformative aspect, it requires something that looking at whether something is transformative, you need to go deeper than qualitative analyses. Quantitative, sorry. I was talking about quantitative, thinking quantitative and saying qualitative. So you need to look at the quality of the projects and what impact they will have on many more spheres. That's actually why I really like also your tool, because it's trying to look at these various aspects. So how do you define what is transformative? How do you include all of these objectives that we have of social justice, environmental justice, leaving no one behind, without just looking at pure numbers? Because sometimes the most transformative projects are not large projects, like you mentioned, Diana. These are the smaller projects, the softer projects. It's building the capacities of I don't know, 5 people, because those will be the people who will introduce something innovative. It's, having an expert visit to a specific person, because this person will be able to implement a new district heating solution for a region or for a municipality. These are not things that are sometimes very well, very easy to explain within projects, for example, but generally, when you're trying to explain how transformative the whole just transition process can be in its huge complexity. So 1 minute meeting with one person can change everything sometimes. And how do you even report that or put it into indicators? Talking about this is why I keep going back to, how important it is to be among the people, to be in the regions, and to have permanent and regular sort of long-term commitment to be there. Because this is how you develop transformative measures. By supporting the people there, by helping them to sort of develop. And going back to the indicators, I think it's almost impossible to measure this in a way that's easily sort of explainable just in numbers or just in a table or just in a report.
Yanis, please.
Yes. I have to say that that I do agree with Miroslava, but I have to say that sometimes it's a bit more difficult, and I know that everybody knows about that. I'll give you an example. Actually, Tassos was referring to that, saying that the population of Western Macedonia have decreased 10%. And mainly this 10% comes from the young people, the people they don't find jobs here. So entirely, I agree that we need to be side by side to those people. But on the other hand, we have to say that in the last, at least in Western Macedonia, in the last 20 years, we are talking about this energy transition, talking about what we should do, how we should do it, and so on. At the end of the day, I'm afraid, I have to say, because I'm a part of the people you have to blame, because I was a professor in the university, my role was to initiate things and so on. But if you ask those people now to come again and talk, nobody will come, because they are tired. The only thing they need is just to see very concrete actions to create job in the region, in contrary to the jobs we are losing due to this just transition. For them, this is what matters. I don't want to say that don't talk at all. But what I want to say is just our politicians have to be much more careful and much more aware that this is the time to give solutions, to provide solutions, and not just awareness creation or whatever. We need really to find solution at the moment. I know that you cannot have real stable solution if you don't involve the citizens. That's for sure. On the other hand, somebody has to take the initiatives. This is the local government for me, the regional government more. I don't know. I'm afraid that we don't have the luxury to wait for more consolidation. We have to move. That's it. That's my sense as an overall out of this exercise today. That's it.
Thank you so much, Yanis. Cesar, do you have a final point? Or
yes, I tried. Okay, I was not find my the proper screen. So yeah, my point of view, and quite aligned with some of your comment, is about this justice and injustice feelings you can find in the society, right? And as far as sometimes these just transition mechanisms sometimes could be, I not say always, but sometimes are identified from people that is aligned addressing by key players, like main utilities, maybe the same entities as was managing the former thermal power plants of the coal mines in the past. So when this feeling appears, we need to ask about what could be the feeling of people about how they relevant they feel. So how we can help people to become more relevant in the region. So in this sense, we was thinking that the local communities could be a good instrument to become people relevant. So in this sense, could be just a small activity, a small action to become, to move or to transform the feeling from injustice to justice in this local, in these regions, and specifically in these local communities. So in order to promote this kind of communities, especially as some of you was saying before, attending vulnerable groups, one of the key points should be that. Just one example, talking about poverty, talking about energy poverty, maybe one of the most relevant aspects of the energy poverty, talking about metrics or indicators, is the blind poverty. So you have into account the most perfect indicators and metrics, maybe a calculation and assessment tool, but you have not been able to identify the blinded poverty in the regions and the blinded poverty in your community or in your municipalities. So to solve this issue doesn't matter the analytics more than the local communities, because people close to the other people is the only way to identify, to unblind these metrics. And I think that's my final point. So will be in this direction. Just try to pay attention to citizens, especially vulnerable groups, because maybe they are suffering more than another this transition. And we like to propose these local communities, maybe citizen communities, renewable energy communities, doesn't matter the kind of communities, but if you focus the attention in these local communities, you may support and change slightly the concept from justice to injustice, at least in some specific group of people. And that's all.
Thank you so much. As we are out of time, Diana, please, last few minutes to finish everything.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks to all the speakers and of course all the participants also for your questions. I think it became quite clear, right, that we have, different approaches to monitoring, the monitoring committees, the monitoring observatories, but maybe also other tools, the Just Transition platform that are already there and that are established, and that it needs more collaboration, more maybe streamlining also. So let's really see it as a kind of a starting point today, that we had a great discussion, hearing all the insights, and let us stay in touch and collaborate in the future to ensure that we are really moving towards a just transition for our coal regions across Europe. Of course, we are happy if you want to follow up with us from the project side, so the JUSTEM, SITRANS, and also the RePower the Regions projects, of course. These are ongoing projects, so please follow us on different social media platforms, and you can also find further information about the projects on our website. So thanks everyone for your attendance, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks. See you, everyone.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Tiana.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much,
Thank you.
Marta.
Bye. Thank you,
everybody.
All the
everyone.
best.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.